It's a pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Brigadier General Kerry Denson, who served our nation for more than 40 years in the military. He began his career in December 1965 when he was drafted. He volunteered for pilot training and directly after reported to his unit in Vietnam. His assignments included 2 combat tours in Vietnam as a pilot. Between tours, he was a flight instructor at Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia. After active duty, he returned to Wisconsin and immediately joined the Wisconsin Army National Guard. He served in a variety of command and staff assignments, including commander of the 147th Attack Helicopter Battalion, director of aviation for the Wisconsin Army National Guard, and the last 9 years of his service, he was commander of the Wisconsin Army National Guard and its 7,700 soldiers. That term, I believe, is Adjutant General for the state of Wisconsin. As a commander, he's responsible for the largest mobilization of the Wisconsin Army National Guard for combat since World War II. General Denson has flown over 10,000 hours. That's like 5 years of full-time work in the air, including 1,277 of those hours in combat. He's rated to fly both helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. His many military awards include the Distinguished Service Medal, the Silver Star, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Bronze Star Medal, the Purple Heart, 35 air medals, and many additional awards and decorations. General Denson is a graduate of the Army's Command and General Staff College, the Air Force's Air War College, and numerous military training courses. He holds a degree in business administration. After his retirement, General Denson started his own business, Applied Leadership, speaking to leaders of business, industry, and government who are interested in improving the morale, dedication, efficiency, and pride of their workforce. He draws on his more than 40 years of expertise as a leader and shares with you the tools and techniques he has found the most successful. Please join me in welcoming General Denson.
Thanks, Keith. Good. Well, I have to admit, while he was reading that, I took my pulse. I wanted to make sure that was an introduction and not a eulogy. So, well, as you heard in my introduction, my career was military. And I had assignments all over the world, not just here in Wisconsin, but all over the world during my assignment as a commander of the Wisconsin Army Guard, and of course while I was on active duty. And one of the things that I began to realize very early in my career was that leadership is a universal human trait, that all people react favorably to good quality leadership. It crosses all national and international boundaries, and it affects all race, creed, color, culture. We all respond favorably to good quality leadership. It's just something that's built into us. Now, sidebar issue. Because it's a universal human trait, we will respond to good quality leadership even if that leadership is being used for unethical, immoral, or even illegal purposes. Hold that thought. We'll come back to that. The other thing I began to realize is that leadership is at all levels. I mean, in the United States, I dealt with our leaders at the senior military levels, the civil levels, and in foreign countries at the presidential level, their senior militaries, down to and including the local leadership. I have eaten the goat sitting on the ground in the tent. That is local leadership. But again, what I realized very early in my career is that we all will respond to that good quality leadership. The other thing that began to dawn on me very early in my career is that there were certain senior leaders that we liked to work for. And there was other leaders that had same rank, same level of responsibility, but they didn't have that something that we liked working for them. So I started to pay attention. What were these senior leaders doing? What leadership tools were they using that caused us to give them our trust, confidence, and respect? What were they doing that was different? And then I literally started my own leadership toolbox. I took those things that they were doing successfully and I put them in my toolbox. And then as I went up that leadership pyramid and I had assignments of increased responsibility, I would experiment with different leadership tools. And those tools that worked successfully for me, put them in my toolbox. And as I went up that leadership pyramid, I encountered some very unique leadership situations. And I could usually reach into my toolbox and come up with a tool that I could apply to that particular situation. Now ask any mechanic and what will he or she tell you? They never have enough tools. And we, as leaders, never have enough tools either. So if you have not started a leadership toolbox, I encourage you to do that. And this noon, I'll give you at least a few tools to start a basic set of leadership tools for your toolbox. Now, what do we do as leaders? Why do we come to work every day? Our job, our mission, is to develop and maintain a motivated, efficient organizational culture. Wow, now that's a mouthful of words. To develop and maintain a motivated, efficient organizational culture. For that piece of the organization that we have responsibility for. That becomes the umbrella underneath that piece of the organization. And everything that happens under that umbrella of that motivated, efficient organizational culture. What does that give you? Well, it gives you things like a more motivated workforce. What does that give you? Well, it'll give you things like higher morale, more personal pride in the organization, lower turnover, less absenteeism, greater productivity, and at the end of the reporting period, a better bottom line. Those are all the things that happen under that umbrella. Now, every organization takes on the personality of its leader. If you've gone into a new organization, we all have, what do you have to be there? 3 to 5 minutes, and you can feel it. You got it. You know what's going on there. You know how those folks feel about the organization. Let's imagine for a minute that we're here in the Milwaukee area, and we have a national organization that works coast to coast. We have an Eastern division that serves everything east of Milwaukee, and we have a Western organization division that handles everything west of Milwaukee. Both of these divisions are exactly the same. Same manning document, same position description, same pay. In fact, they're 50 feet apart down the hallway. They even have the same size office, the same office furniture, and the same office temperature. They're exactly the same. So I go down to the Eastern office, I open the door, and I look in, and gee, everything looks pretty good in here. Pretty well picked up, it's clean. Everything looks nice. People are working in small groups. I hear please, thank you, I see smiles. Oh, look, somebody even brought cookies. I close the door to the Eastern Division. I walk down to the Western Division. I open their door. I look in. There is junk piled all over. I mean, it's a mess. They didn't even take out the trash. And people are not polite. They're not smiling. I hear excuses. I hear a little name calling over here. I hear some whining. There's an argument taking place in the corner. There are no cookies. And their numbers are terrible. Everything about these two organizations is exactly the same, except they have taken on the personality of their organizational leader. Leadership is that powerful. Now, as Keith mentioned in my introduction, I work with organizations all over the United States. And my job and my goal is to go out and give those organizational leaders the tools to develop and maintain that motivated, efficient organizational culture. Here's my bottom line. When your employees are coming to work tomorrow morning and they're at that last stoplight, I don't want them grinding their teeth. In fact, if they were asked next Tuesday at a school function, where do you work, they would not only tell them where they work, but they would tell them with pride why it is, in fact, a good place to work. When I mention a good leader, every one of us has got a face and a name of somebody that we are currently working for or have worked for that we say, boy, I like working for them. If I'm ever in that position, that's the kind of boss I want to be. That's the kind of leader I want to be. What are the tools that that leader is using that causes us to give them our trust, confidence, and respect? Here's a few of the tools they're probably using. in today's media, especially the print media, I hear and see in the same article the same individual referred to as a leader and a manager. They use the term interchangeably, sometimes in the same paragraph, and I think they're really different. I don't think they're the same at all. Let's imagine for a minute that we're in an Army division. An Army division has about 14,000 soldiers. Now, they're broke down into battalions of about 750 each, and each division normally has 10 to 12 battalions. Our division's mission is to go down this path and seize that objective way, way down there. We've got to seize that objective and not let the enemy take it. However, between us and the objective is Hill 410. Hill 410 is strategic in that the division can't go over it. It cannot go around it. It must, in fact, go over it. The enemy understands the strategic value of Hill 410. It is well-equipped, very determined, well-trained, and they are going to defend it. One of the battalions is going to have to clear Hill 410 for the rest of the division. I'm a battalion commander. This morning, we got the mission. Tomorrow morning, at first light, clear Hill 410. So while I'm talking to you this noon, we've got our subordinate company commanders making sure all of our soldiers are ready for tomorrow's attack at first light. They're checking to make sure we have all the soldiers that were authorized, getting replacements for anyone that's missing, making sure they have all their equipment, that it's all in good shape, they know how to use it. In fact, as I speak, they are rehearsing the attack on Hill 410 for tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, I put the battalion staff to work to get everything we will need to make that a successful attack. They have laid on fighter aircraft, attack helicopters, artillery, replacements, reinforcements, resupply, medevac, communications. Nothing has been missed. Tomorrow morning at first light, this battalion is 100% ready to attack Hill 410. Folks, what I've just explained to you and described, that's a manager. That's what a manager does. A leader does everything that manager did, but then goes out there and gets those troops so rallied, so excited, they not only want to attack Hill 410 at first light, they want to start early. That's the difference between a leader and a manager. All good leaders have to be good managers. All good managers do not necessarily make good leaders. We all want to work for that confident leader, somebody that knows this business from top to bottom. They know the strategic, the tactical, the technical, the administrative. They know everything about this business. That's who we want to work for. And when things are going south, when it's going down the old pool and we're having a bad day at Black Rock, they step forward and says, I can handle this. Why don't you let me take charge? And we're glad they are. We all want to work for that confident leader. But none of us can stand to work for an arrogant leader. And to be a successful leader, we have to realize it's a very fine line between confidence and arrogance. And to be successful, we got to get our feet right up to that line, but never so much as a little toe over the line into arrogance. Once we display arrogance, we lose the trust, confidence, and respect of those who we lead, and we become ineffective as leaders. So, brimming with confidence, but never a hint of arrogance. Now, in my introduction, it was mentioned that one of my previous assignments, I was a director of aviation for the Wisconsin Army Guard. In that position, in that assignment, I was responsible for about 75 aircraft and about 500 aviation personnel. I was the highest ranking pilot in the state. I had flown more hours than almost every single pilot, and I had, in fact, flown more types of aircraft than anybody else. I was the head hot dog. I was on top. Nobody outranked me. So, as I'm walking out to fly this morning, and there's my aircraft, there's two young soldiers working on it. One, she's the mechanic. She's checking it over to make sure it's safe for me to fly, and the other young soldier is a refueler. I trust these young soldiers with my life, that it is, in fact, safe for me to fly, and that he's putting in the right kind of fuel, the right amount of fuel, and that it's clean fuel. I literally trust them with my life. Now, who's more important, me or them? Folks, we are all equally important. We simply have different levels of responsibility. Never confuse your level of responsibility with your importance. They're not even connected. You know, and you probably already know this because you're all in leadership positions, the best part about being a leader is you never have a bad day. Everything goes exactly as you planned. Keith doesn't even get a cell phone call that hasn't been prearranged by appointment 24 hours in advance. Right, Keith? Of course not. Our days are chaotic. In fact, the further up you go on that leadership pyramid, the greater the probability things are going to go wrong because you're in charge of more stuff. But to be a successful leader, our bad days have to be invisible to the people that are working around us. Why? Because if we're not predictable, if we're hot one day, cold the next, everybody's best friend today, a screamer tomorrow, or we have the reputation of killing the messenger of bad news, then your subordinates don't know how you're going to react to the bad news. They won't give it to you. They won't give it to you. And what do we do as leaders? We make decisions, which means you are now making uninformed decisions. And if there's a piece of information you probably needed, it was probably the bad news more than the good news. So, we've got to be predictable. You're going to have bad days? You bet. You're going to have bad days. But they have to be invisible to the people around us. We have to be predictable. So how do you handle a bad day? Well, after being in leadership positions for over 40 years, I will give you my professional advice on how you handle a bad day. Suck it up. You've just got to move on. As a leader, we are in leadership positions 24/7. You are never not in a leadership position. Now, some of you are going, hold the phone, Denson, just a minute. When I'm done, I leave it at the office. I don't take it home with me. Good for you. Do that. Continue to do that. However, if we are in a leadership position, there is a professional and social expectation about how we will conduct ourselves. If you're the high school principal in a small town in central Wisconsin, you are in a leadership position not only as an educational leader, but by virtue of your position, you're a community leader. Next Wednesday night, you go down to the local bowling alley, you get knee-crawling drunk, get in a fight, and get arrested. The next morning, do you have the trust, confidence, and respect of the school board, the faculty, the students, or the citizens of that community? It was after hours. Of course not. You have not lived up to the social and professional expectations of a high school principal. If you run into one of your subordinates when you're grocery shopping next week in the evening, there is a professional and social expectation about how you will conduct yourself in aisle 7. Now, does that mean we can't have fun? Of course not. There are times we got to go out there and just make some noise, let our hair down, and have fun. And you can. That's why we have the state of Idaho. I do work with organizations all around the United States. And I got to tell you, I've been in some, when they talk about their employees, they discuss those employees and talk about them as if they were a commodity. As if they were a ton of iron ore or a bushel of soybeans. These are real people. Real people. They have the same wants, the same needs that you and I do. They are giving us, usually, the very best, most productive years of their life. They spend so much time with us that we not only influence who they are, but we shape who they become. When that little granddaughter is baking cookies with Grandma, and she says, Grandma, what did you do? Grandma is not going to hold up a pay stub. Grandma is going to tell her where she worked, what she did, and how she was treated. They're real people with real needs, the same as you and I. Well, what do our employees expect from the organization when they come into work in the morning? Well, number one, they want to know what's going on. Simple as that. What's happening? What's going on? And if they don't get accurate, timely, factual information from the organizational leaders, then the employees fill in the blanks. They simply make it up. And we call that rumors and gossip. Rumors and gossip are never positive. They're always negative. Nothing stops rumors and gossip faster, dead in the water, kills them, than accurate, timely, factual information from the organizational leaders. Stops them dead in the water. Now, we live in a technological age today that we want to know and expect to know what's going on any place in the world if something happens instantly. We used to marvel at the 24-hour news channels because that's where we could find out what was going on. Now we've got it on our smartphones. We don't even have to be around the television. If something happens in the world, we know about it normally within minutes. Now, I can't use the term CNN because it's copyrighted. So I am going to take you to BNN, the Boring News Network. I'm going to give you to their anchor, Bob Busybody. Take it away, Bob. Thanks, General Denson. I'm Bob Busybody here manning the desk at BNN. Just a minute, folks. Something's coming in over my headset. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay, yep, got it. Folks, we've just been informed there's going to be an aircraft crash. We're going to go live on the scene with Cody Goodhair. Take it away, Cody. Thanks, Bob. I'm Cody Goodhair. I'm standing here in a cornfield in central Wisconsin. We have been informed there's going to be an aircraft crash. Holy mackerel, wham! Ladies and gentlemen, an aircraft just crashed. I don't know what kind of aircraft that is. I don't know who that aircraft belongs to, and I don't know what caused the crash. When we get details, we'll be back. Back to you, Bob. What did Cody tell us? Nothing. He didn't tell us anything. He said an aircraft crashed. He didn't know who it belonged to, didn't know what kind it was, didn't know what caused the crash. But you know something? We're satisfied. Why? Because we know everything Cody knows. And when he finds out more, he's going to share it with us. We're satisfied. That's exactly what our employees want. When they come to work in the morning, they simply want to know what's going on. Now, they know you can't give them certain information. You cannot give them the dollar value of a bid that went out yesterday, and you cannot give them the recipe to Coca-Cola. That's not what they're looking for. They simply want to know what's going on. And just like Cody, facts only, don't speculate. Cody said when he finds out, he'll get back to him. As a leader, never speculate, facts only. If a leader speculates something like, well, you know, this could happen, that becomes the grist for tomorrow morning's rumors and gossip. Did you hear what she said? Boy, she attends all those big meetings. She must know, boy, this is sounding bad. Facts only, never speculate. Silence is not golden. If you've been keeping your employees informed and suddenly it gets quiet, it goes something like this. Mark, have you heard anything? Me neither. Mark, this is not good. They can't tell us. This has got to be really bad. Mark, do you think there's going to be layoffs? I wonder if they're moving our business to China. I wonder if they're going to close the plant. For lack of accurate, timely, factual information from the organizational leaders, they will make up that information with rumors and gossip. Silence is not golden. Now, what do you get in return if you keep your employees, your subordinates informed? You gain their trust, confidence, and respect. Well, when our employees come to work in the morning, what else do they expect and what do they want? They don't come to work for the money. Now, don't jump on your smartphones and tell the comptrollers not to pay them. Of course, we have to pay people a reasonable wage with reasonable benefits. But that's not what motivates us. In fact, we know statistically and historically, give everybody a raise and they're happy for about 1 or 2 pay periods. And then they go back to grumping and complaining about the issues that they were grumping and complaining about anyway. So that doesn't motivate us. Again, there's something built into us. Something built into us is people that we want to belong to an organization, a team, something that's bigger than us that allows us to do things collectively that we can't do individually. Now, where did that come from? I don't know. I think it's been in here a long time. And I think it's probably part of our survival instincts. It probably goes all the way back to when we were forming the Village Saber-Tooth Tiger defense teams. Now, what would be my motivation to join the Village Saber-Tooth Tiger defense team? Well, I can do something collectively, guard the village, that I couldn't do individually. And then tomorrow morning as I'm walking down the street, people rush up and say, Carrie, thank you, thank you. We heard the tigers growl last night. We heard the bell ring. You guys fell out with your spears and nobody got eaten. Thank you. Individual recognition for my contribution to the organization. That's what motivates us. That's what motivates us. Kind of sounds like a volunteer fire department. Now, I have to share with you that even back then, everybody didn't work out. There were some guys that were just absolutely a klutz. Things like pointy end of the spear forward. Oops, too much technical information. And they made fun of him, they teased him, and then they finally gave him a nickname. They called him Bait. Now, Bait was able to serve. Unfortunately, he could only serve once, but his family and friends did get the appropriate individual recognition at a village ceremony at a later date. If you think this isn't true today, tell me, what is the motivation for a high school kid to join a gang? Is it the pay, the working conditions, the health insurance, 401k, retirement plan? It's because those gang leaders tell these kids what they can do collectively if they join the gang, and then they reward them individually for their contribution. That's the motivation. That's the motivation. And remember, because leadership is a universal human trait that's built into us, we will respond to that good quality leadership even when it is being used for immoral, unethical, or illegal purposes. Now, it was mentioned that when I was still working, I was responsible for that mobilization of the Wisconsin Guard. It kind of works like this. They don't call up and say, we want the whole Wisconsin Guard. The Army, active Army, would call us, and they would want a battalion next week for this, or a couple months from now. They would want a truck company, an aviation battalion in 3 months. So we had all these different units in the mobilization pipeline. And we would put together mobilization teams that would go out and work with these units, getting the soldiers ready, the equipment ready, and the families ready to go on to active duty. And as I was travel around the state, I would see some of the same soldiers on these mobilization teams for the 5th, 6th, 7th weekend in a row. Why weekends? Because they're citizen soldiers. They work for you during the week, so we tried to do as much of our work as we could on the weekends. But I'd see some of these same soldiers out there week after week. When I'd go back to my office on Monday morning, I'd take some of my general officer stationery, looks like this, got a little red flag, that's Army, got a star in the middle, my rank, and I would write them a personal handwritten letter that read something like this. Sergeant Nelson, I saw you out there again this last weekend. Thank you. Without dedicated soldiers like you, we could not continue to mobilize the quality units that we do for our Army. Would you do me a personal favor? Please thank your family for all of the support they give you so that you can continue to support us. Then I would have my secretary, Sue, mail this to their home. Why their home? Because I wanted them to open this in front of their family so that their family could see that they were receiving individual recognition for their contribution to the organization from the highest ranking Army officer in the state of Wisconsin. And then, of course, they'd show them to their other soldiers. Look what I got from the general. And then I'd see these taped up or tacked up in their cubicles. I'd see them underneath the glass in the desk. And then, when I would go to those ceremonies, send-off ceremonies for the units, families would come up and say, General Denson, thank you. We had no idea that you realized what we were going through. Because, see, they have missed all the birthdays, weddings, anniversaries. They've missed everything. They've missed them all. Now, if I had to call one of those mobilization teams up because something happened that was unscheduled, do you think they'd show up? You bet. Would they complain? No. They'd brag about it. Yeah, General got himself in a corner. We bailed him out. They'd brag about it. Takes me about 90 seconds to write one of these. Cost me at that time 43 cents to mail it. I got paid back in spades. You too have people that work for you day in and day out and give you that extra. Take the time to tell them thank you. Tell them thanks. And you'll know how to do it. Do you do it verbally, in writing? Do you do it publicly or in private? Tell them thank you. Give them that individual recognition for their contribution to the organization. You too will be paid back in spades. Now, how do we bring all this stuff together? You have to have a vision. You have to have a vision. Now, how many of you have been on a committee to write an organizational vision statement? Anybody ever had to do that? Yeah, nobody's holding their hands up too high. For those of you that haven't had the experience, it goes like this. They bring together a group of people throughout the organization. You have to write an organizational vision statement that fits on one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, double-spaced, font 12, bold, one-sided. And then they'll give you some tools. They'll give you a laptop with a PowerPoint projector, one of those easels with the big tear-off sheets, some magic markers, and tape, masking tape, so when they put you in a room, you can tape the stuff all around the walls. Then they put you in a very small room, they lock the door, turn up the heat, turn off the oxygen, and you can't come out until this item is finished. When you finish this epistle, you hand it to a staffer, they run it upstairs. If the guys up on top approve it, then it gets double matted, triple framed, hung in the lobby for the public to see, and nobody in the organization ever sees it again. How close did I get it? Yeah, pretty close, right. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, but I don't wear it. The vision I'm talking about is, for the piece of the organization that you have responsibility for, what would that look like if it were perfect? Absolutely perfect. What would that look like? Write it down. Write down what perfection would look like. And then in the column right beside it, write down, what do I really have? What does it really look like right now today? And now use that as your filter. Every time you make a decision to include how you use your hours in the day, every decision and every hour that you're working, you should be moving closer to perfection. And then, periodically, re-benchmark, remeasure. It might be monthly, quarterly, whatever makes sense for you. As an example, I'm in charge of this machine shop in a large factory. And I've got 5 machines. I've got my personnel. What would perfection look like? Well, my 5 machines would have the latest programming. They'd all be well maintained. I'd have my full complement of employees. They'd all be perfectly trained. I'd have adequate budget and good raw materials. Then I write down, what do I really have? 5 machines, 1 needs programming, 1 needs a little maintenance. On my employees, I'm short 1 needs training, I'm a little under budgeted, and I have about a 10% rejection rate on my raw materials because they're not of good quality. Every decision I make should be moving me closer to perfection. You'll never get to perfection. You won't get there. But you will be amazed at how much progress you will make. Okay, a few guys are kind of looking at the ceiling going, cute, Denson, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Fine, don't. I don't care. Don't do it. However, then you are going to be afflicted with what I call the lost pilot syndrome. Because if you're a lost pilot, every turn you make is a wonderful turn because you don't know where you're going anyway. And if you don't have that vision, every decision you make is a wonderful decision because you don't know where you're going anyway. So have that vision and use that as your filter to move you closer to perfection. We're in leadership positions. Appreciate the positions we're in, and this is why. We've got people that work for us that in their entire working career will never be in a position that we are where we can make changes and make things happen. And we can. As a leader, appreciate our position. Thank you very much.